So today I wanted to show you how to make rosehip syrup. It's a staple in our house every year, that alongside elderberry syrup. You'll know what it's like if you've got children, even if you don't. I've got 2 children under 6. There's constant coughs and colds coming back from school and things like that. So I always have this ready in the fridge. I do mix some of it with elderberry syrup as well, just for that double potency. But today I'll show you how to make this single batch up first. I always follow the River Cottage recipe for this, just because it's so simple. It's the simplest one I've found so far. You don't need very much for it. It's not too complicated. So just your rose hips, a blender, a strainer if you have one. This is because I make jam and things, but I also have a simpler one. They can be like £2-3 off the internet to strain, because rose hips have seeds within them and strands that were traditionally used for itching powder. So what you don't want is that in your syrup. So we're going to be double straining that today, and just a large pan and some water. So the first thing you're going to do is just check through your rose hips, check you're happy with the quality. I just normally take off these leaves at the end. You're going to blend them to break them up and then put them into the pan. So I won't play the sound of the blender going, because who needs that in the life? So just double check you're happy with quality and things like that, and then just pop them into your blender. So I've just filled it up like that. I'm going to just roughly chop. So it should look like that. Just when you've roughly chopped it, I just empty that into the pan and do the next batch. Unless you've got a decent sized blender, unlike me. So just to show you what that'll look like when you finish chopping those up. Obviously they didn't have blenders in the olden days, they just used a knife. So if what you've got is a knife, use it. I've just got my tiny little blender that probably isn't fit for purpose. It's just taken 6 or 7 shifts to do that, but that's what you end up with. We're going to add now just over 1 litre of water, boil that up and then reduce it down to a simmer. So whilst that's boiling, we're just going to sterilise our jars or bottles, whatever you want to use. You can use anything, an old pasta jar, as long as it's clean and sterilised. So preheat my oven to 100 degrees centigrade, because I've got a fan oven. So just wash in hot soapy water, rinse off, pop on a baking tray and pop it into the oven, and it'll just sterilise and dry the bottle out, or whatever container you want to use. So just to keep it real as well, just found out that the pan I usually use for sauces won't work on the hob we've recently had to replace. So we've just had to have a pan change. So there we go. So the syrup's been simmering away for about 20 minutes now, just over, just to give it that little bit longer. So that's what it'll look like. Can't really see the colour yet, but I'm going to strain it now and you will be able to see what that's going to come through like. So it's going to have its first strain. So all you need for that is a ladle, and I'm just going to strain it through the net and see how much we end up with. This bit feels quite tense because I am so very short and this is very high and this is hot. So we'll just wish me luck. If it does fall, I suppose it'll be relatively funny. But yeah, one of those things. So I've emptied the pan. It's all in this net, straining. As you can see, it's kind of like a pinky orangey colour. You're going to leave that for half an hour, just to make sure that as much juice as possible strains through the net. Then we'll double strain it. So we'll strain it again, and then we'll add it to the pan and add the sugar. So I've just finished the first strain of the rose hips. You're just going to end up with a load of pulp. Looks a bit like that. Just pop that onto your compost pile, or dispose of it however you want. I would just say, pro tip, don't put these nets into your general washing for obvious reasons, unless you want very itchy clothes. So just dispose of them safely and wash these probably by hand in the sink. I have another mesh net I'm going to use just to double strain it into the pan we're going to use. And what you want to be doing at this point is just pop your pan onto scales if you have them. It's saying I've got 1,000 millilitres here, so for every, or just over, so for every 500 millilitres you're going to add 325 grams of sugar. So I'm just going to zero this and pour through this just to make sure we're not getting any of those fibres into the syrup. So just give it a second strain. Zeroed my weighing scales with the liquid in. I'm just going to add, it's just granulated sugar, it doesn't have to be fancy, you're just making a syrup. So I'm just going to pop 650 ish. 662, it's not the end of the world. And then put that on the heat. Dissolve the sugar. And then we'll bring it up to boil. So just whisking the sugar in, making sure that dissolves. Don't boil it at this stage because you need the sugar to actually dissolve into the liquid before we do anything like that. So yeah, just slowly stir it. Just make sure all the sugar's dissolving. You'll know it's dissolved, obviously you won't be able to see it anymore, and there'll be less resistance when you're stirring as well. So once the sugar's dissolved, you're just going to bring it to the boil. Sounds like a rocket's taking off in my new oven, but here we go. I just set a timer because I'm extremely forgetful, so just 3 minutes. If there's any scum on the top, just skim that off with a spoon as it's boiling, and then we're going to decant it immediately into our bottle from the oven. So that's just boiling away lovely now. So just anything like that, just skim off and pop onto a plate, because we want this to be as pure as possible. So that's what they mean by scum, just anything like that, that if you'll see that's actually not a liquid. So we just want to take all that kind of stuff off, so that our syrup's as pure as possible. So, there you go. So here's our bottle that's just come out of the oven, using a tea towel, very profesh. I'm just a mum. So I'm going to decant the syrup immediately into that. So it'll be quite hot to touch. Very sensibly used a plastic funnel because why not? Here we go. So I'm just going to very slowly ladle this into the bottle. It needs to be done really well, both are hot, so it stays sterile. This might not be the best angle, so I might just readjust to show you a different angle to show you what that looks like. For the next bit. So that's just made about a litre, just over, litre and a half-ish of rosehip syrup. There's a bit more to spare. I do freeze some as well for over the winter, but this will last you about 3 to 4 months in the fridge, as long as you store it properly. So once that's cooled, I'll pop the lid on and yeah, a spoonful every morning before school and stuff, and should hopefully help with immunity over the season.